Well, it's been a couple of weeks, but the drama's not ending in Overland Park. We told you just before the bottom of the hour news about the emails we received and we've seen that suggest Faris Farasati, councilman in Overland Park, did in fact email Mayor Kurt Skoog a day to two after the storms blew through on Friday, July 14th, where there was a lot of damage, a lot of power outages around Overland Park. And the mayor was on the East Coast at a mayoral conference. He left on Saturday morning for that. Kurt Skoog, the mayor, responded yesterday to Faris Farasati on this show and said this.
Well, let me just answer directly to Councilmember Farasati that I just want you to know that not once, I want you to know this, Pete, not once did he call me or the city manager during this event.
Okay, and that may very well be true, and that is true from what I gather, but it is 2023. There were emails sent to the city manager from Faris Farasati to Mayor Skoog and the entire council and the city manager saying, hey, we got to get together and get this thing cleaned up. No one called Mayor Skoog, that's correct, but the idea that no one reached out to him or Farasati did not reach out to him is not an accurate portrayal based on the emails I've seen on that weekend and how it played out. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute, joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Always good to have him on. Dave, what do you make of this back and forth here?
Well, it's not surprising at all, Pete. This is the same guy who tries to tell people he hasn't raised property taxes when they go up double digits the last couple of years. It's not surprising at all. I mean, he's at Harvard Bloomberg mayoral conference. You don't go there to learn how to provide good services at better prices. You go to a place like that to learn how to tax, spend, and grow government.
That's a very good point. That is, I'm sure, a big part of what they do there, having not seen the curriculum myself. So what should we read into this? I mean, is this just a spat between a councilman who doesn't like the mayor and a mayor who doesn't like the councilman? Or for the taxpayer of Overland Park, how should they be, in your estimation, viewing what's happened in their community over the last 2.5 weeks?
Well, sure. I mean, there's disagreements between Skoog and Farasati because they have a different approach. One's trying to control spending, the other's trying to grow it. But I mean, I've been in the city council meetings when people come pleading with council, don't raise property taxes. You're taxing me out of my home. And the majority have this let them eat cake attitude. They're going to do what they want. It's not, the citizens aren't the concern. If the developers, maybe the next time they should have the developers call and say, hey, you better come back here and clean this up. Then something would happen right away.
Yeah. We're talking with Dave Trabert of the Kansas Policy Institute on KCMO Talk Radio. Just how bad has it been? I mean, I know you guys wrote about this over at the Sentinel. Overland Park officials blow off residents' requests for help with storm cleanup. You know, it seems to me you go to most parts of Overland Park and, there's not a huge need for added government services or extra government services, but it certainly hasn't stopped the municipality from trying to get its hands on as much money as they can from their own taxpayers. And here they have a situation where people actually need them in the wake of this storm. And it does not seem, no matter what the spin is does not seem like the city lived up to the expectations there.
No, the city did not. And you look at what they posted on social media. They want to give this appearance of happy workers. You know, you have the mayor coming back afterward posing in a hard hat. You had other people. It's just like it's all happy times. And it's like they don't get that there are people who need help. And it's just, the focus is always on, look how great we are at the city. That's just the way Overland Park operates. It's not a citizen-focused city.
How does that change? I mean, is it as simple as just, hey, got to go to the polls next election, or is there something else?
You do have to go to the polls. You're going to have, they need to have, we had another piece on there about the shadow government in Overland Park. You know, city council allows the staff to run the city.
Mm-hmm.
City council allows the developers and other planning commissions to run the city. They don't ask questions. There's a hundreds of millions of dollars in budget that goes through there, and they hardly ask any questions. They're not even involved that much in the preparation of the budget. It's just, it's on autopilot, and there's just not a focus on how to grow, how to help the taxpayers. The property tax has gone up 411% since 1997. That's more than triple inflation plus population. It's just not necessary. They just want to spend every dollar they can get their hands on.
Yeah, I see here in the article, Overland Park has more than twice as much assessed valuation as Olathe. So $1 million in Overland Park raises twice as much money. They're getting, as you noted there, 411% increase in the last 25 years on property taxes, which is almost 3.5 times inflation plus population.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's that mill rate. That's another example of how that city just always tries to deceive people. They claim we have the lowest mill rate. Well, they do because they have so much more property value. It's not because they operate efficiently. It's all, look at how good we're doing. No, it's because of the way property is distributed throughout the county.
Dave, I want to spend the next couple of minutes here on the headline piece at the Kansas City Star from Sunday, and it's ahead of today's elections across Kansas, city council races and whatnot. Prairie Village, as you well know, has been the center of trying to maintain what they have essentially there, stop developers from coming in and changing the makeup of what Prairie Village has always been. And everyone who's driven through Prairie Village has seen the red stop signs that say stop rezoning PV. And the Kansas City Star had this big headline piece, is Johnson County affordable housing more about protecting cities or keeping people out? The allegation being those who have up the signs, stop rezoning PV, are anti-poor. They basically had an argument in here that they were more or less racist. How should we be perceiving that conversation, especially with city council races around Johnson County today?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, Pete, we talked about hypocrisy and how to determine whether somebody or a newspaper has principles or just preferences. And I think this is a classic example. I'll roll you back, almost 10 years ago, when there was a controversy in Prairie Village over the Mission Chateau Senior Living Center. There was a lot of controversy then. It was a very close vote over whether to have that senior center there, and it was because they thought the city was already too dense. Nobody raised the racist issue because this is a different time now. There's a different focus. Seniors coming in probably aren't as likely to vote Democrat as low-income people coming in. That's the same thinking with why we have an open border on the southern part of the country. They want all those immigrants in because it's going to help one party stay in power. This is just it's a mirror image of the hypocrisy that floats around at the Kansas City Star. There's nothing racist about, and look at what these people who are opposed to it are saying. They're not saying keep people out. They're saying let us keep our right to have a public hearing about property use. That's all. That's all. It is the city council that is trying to take away someone's right to have a hearing. They just want someone to be able to go do what they want. That is not representing the citizens. And so they play the race card. You're racist. You don't like poor people. It's like talking to schools. Why do you hate kids if you dare ask questions? We have to start talking about the real issues here and throw the rhetoric aside.
Absolutely right. And it's a good analogy bringing it into the school conversations where if you say anything against the public school, you hate the kids. And that's obviously the furthest thing from the truth. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. Yeah. Last thoughts, Dave?
This is not going to change.
Yeah.
When you have, it's like the education system, you have city governments, they are entrenched. The focus is on the system. It's system over students in schools. It's systems over citizens in these big city governments. And the citizens are going to have to decide how much more they're willing to take, because you're not going to see change grow up organically from within the system.
Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. Dave, well done. We will talk to you next week. Thanks as always for the time.
Good being here, Pete. Thanks.
Always is. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute on KCMO Talk Radio.